of tackle. For joining us on SicEm365 Radio, Paul Catalina, Craig, David Smoak, and Steve Sarkisian, the head coach at the University of Texas. When you hear that, what does that mean to you?
That's pretty cool. You know, I've always admired this job, even when I was young. That's just the University of Texas. Iconic brand, iconic program, the helmets, the uniforms. I mean, all those things add up to be sitting here is pretty special.
What is the fine line of embracing the expectations, which are immense in Austin, and also, you know, dealing with, you know, your guys and what they're ready for? Because the fans want one thing, the players can deliver another, and then meeting those in the middle.
Well, I think one is when you take this job, you have to understand what the expectations are and what the standard is and what the bar is, and then you have to assume the responsibility. Okay, this is why I'm taking the job. If you're surprised by it, you shouldn't have taken the job to begin with. You know, every program's got their own expectations, their own standard, their own bar that is set. And pretty clearly we understand what the University of Texas is about. Okay, great. Let's set that aside. Now let's go to work. What are we doing on a daily basis to do the things necessary to put ourselves in position to achieve what those expectations are? So I don't think you can be overwhelmed by those expectations because they will encompass you. I think you have to recognize them, assume the responsibility of what they are and what are needed and what is expected of you, and then you got to go to work, and you got to kind of set those to the side, and you got to go to work and what it looks like on a daily basis.
You obviously have lots of experience now as the head coach at Texas. Can you imagine, because you had a spring to work through, can you imagine having done this last year during the spring like Dave Aranda did at Baylor, of coming in, and I think he was around for like 3 weeks with the players, didn't even meet players' parents the entire year? Like, can you even imagine a scenario like that? And how can you get done what you want to get done in an environment like that?
Oh, I kind of can, you know, because I came close on a couple jobs a year ago of accepting a couple jobs, ended up not doing it. And then when COVID hit, I was like, could you imagine trying to implement a program during COVID? You know, no spring practice, social distancing, you know, what do the meeting rooms look like, and just trying to do all of that. Unbelievably challenging, and you know, I have a great deal of respect for Dave and his time at LSU and Utah State and all the stuff he's done. We go way back, but I can't imagine that, because this is it's been 6.5 months on the job for me, and I think we've accomplished a lot and have gotten a lot done, but nearly couldn't have done what we've done up until this point if we were in the midst of COVID. So yeah, that's brutal.
I heard you when you were on the podium about, you know, what UT has, the resources, the stadium, the recruiting and all of that, but it still comes down to getting your hands dirty, getting in the mud, players playing for each other, not for themselves. Is that easier said than done?
Well, probably, yeah, you know, because I think it's easy for us to say it, but ultimately implementing that culture, implementing that mindset, and then getting the buy-in, and then ultimately the execution of operating that way on a daily basis. It's easy one time to do it. It's hard 2 times. 3 times now we're starting to get closer to the habit. And that's really what we've tried to work on getting to. And like I was saying up on stage is we're getting it, you know, and I don't know if you had a chance to visit with our 2 young men that are here, Bijan Robinson or Keandre Coburn, but they're great examples of buying in and what that looks like, and being player-led and calling a guy out for maybe not exemplifying those ideas that we're talking about. And it's starting to play itself out. Now, we've got a lot of work to do. We're not a finished product by any means. But I do believe we've made huge strides in the idea of what it takes to win a championship, because ultimately teams win championships, not a bunch of individuals who are 4 and 5 stars. Teams do. Then when the teams win championships, the individuals get the accolades. And it's a team-first mentality that I think our guys have really bought into and understanding.
It just occurred to me when you sat down the last time, I think Smoky, and I don't know if Craig was with us at that time, we're in a room with you, was in the post-game press conference after the Alamo Bowl, which is a crazy, ridiculous game. If you remember
Good. I needed to go home and take a shower after that game.
But that game, from then to now, a lot's happened in your life.
Right.
What has made you grow, and how are you different as a head coach than you were, than you were at Washington?
Well, I think I have to remind myself, when I took the job at Washington, I was 33 years old, which is crazy to think. Like, I wouldn't probably have hired me at 33, but they did, and I was young, brash, egotistical, it was about me. I was up and down, all around, inconsistent, just all those things, right? And as you grow and as you mature and as you learn them through your own life lessons and then lessons as a coach, and you surround yourself with really good people, I think you start to figure out who you are and what you want to be. I think you start to think more about others and those that you're surrounded by and the well-being of them and how you can support them and put them in the best position. And then I think you start to find a level of consistency, and you start to minimize the highs and the lows, and you start to find this almost calm level of consistency that ultimately that's what really good teams do. Because football is a game of adversity. There's ups, downs in game. There's ups, downs in season. But the really good teams find a level of consistency and of calm, and they stay there. And, there may be a little bit of a blip up or a little bit of a blip down, but for the most part, they're pretty consistent. And that's really what's happened to me. And I've found that level, and I feel very comfortable in that arena to where, now it's transitioning that and handing that to our team, and so that we start to play that way as a team, regardless of the opponent, regardless of how big a game is supposed to be or how not big a game is supposed to be. Whatever it is, we are the same. And we approach it the same, we play the same, we're focused the same, we prepare, we do all those things the same, and we put our best foot forward. And if it's good enough to win, it's good enough to win. We'll find out. But that's probably the biggest shift from where I used to be up and down and all around. Now there's a much better level of consistency for me.
Earl Campbell is not the name drop here, but a good family friend, known him a very long time. Have you been able to interact with him quite a bit? And what's it like to be around the Tyler Rose, being the Texas head coach in particular?
Man, I have to tell you guys something. So when I took the job here, I had to remind myself, I used to have Earl Campbell's poster up on my wall as a kid, right? And so I get the job, and it was a whirlwind. We played the national title that night, Monday night, and I'm in Austin the next morning, right? And literally I go in to do this press conference. One of the first people I meet at the press conference is Earl Campbell, and I was like, holy crap, this is Earl Campbell, right? I'm thinking, I was thinking about his poster and all this stuff, and he has been an awesome, awesome resource for me. Great ally, great promoter of our program, and he's been around a bunch, and I'm still blown away. I'm almost sometimes speechless because of just what he embodied and exemplified. I mean, I just watched a 30 for 30 on him the other night. I can't get enough of what Earl Campbell embodied, and the way he played the game of football was incredible. And then what he's done in his adult life after football and all the things that he's done. And I just think he's a great resource for me. He's an awesome person for our players to look to on real life lessons and how to go about a professional career, a life after football, and I'm really proud of him and all the work that he's done for himself.
I've said it every time we've had him on the show. He's the most important person to ever play the game in this state because of what he represents not only on the field, but there's not a person that grew up in the era watching him that, regardless of race or whatever that was going on at the time, didn't love Earl Campbell. You were an Aggie. You like Earl Campbell. I mean, like, you're a Cowboy fan. He played for the Oilers. You liked Earl Campbell. Everybody liked Earl Campbell, and he was such a unifier.
No doubt. And, watching that 30 for 30 the other night, you didn't realize how much the locker room loved him. Right? I mean, because Earl, you watch the games and the jerseys getting ripped off and he's still running and all that. But the locker room loved him. The coaches loved him. And it was because of who he was every day, And I think that's what you want, right? If you have a locker room full of Earl Campbells, maybe not the player, the idea that you could get all of them to play like that, but the idea that they walked in every day with that team mentality and play for one another. And I mean, he loved his O-line. He loved his head coach. He loved all those guys, and they loved him. And that's what really good teams have.
And that's what you want. That's what you're trying to build.
Exactly.
That's a perfect way to end it, too.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, thank you very much. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, guys.
University of Texas head football coach Steve Sarkisian, SicEm365 Radio.